Go ahead.
Good morning, good Shabbos, and Shabbat Shalom. Sorry we are starting a little bit late this morning, but we had some technical problems. Let me explain to you where we are and what we are doing. You see a backdrop of the sanctuary of Temple Beth Israel behind me. It is just a backdrop. This is happening in our house, and we are doing a Zoom service live stream. It is a new experiment for all of us. Our technical difficulties are to be expected as we are learning how to do new things. I need to mention that to start with to make sure you understand what we're doing. We are also posting this service to YouTube and Facebook. It will take about an hour after the service to upload everything. And there were some people, for example, who missed the service last night but did see it on YouTube, so we know that sort of worked. I request that you not talk during the service, and hopefully your phones won't ring. We are prepared, at least on one level, that there will be glitches, but we're going to try to do our very, very best. We have to do this right now, for those of you who aren't aware, because there's major work being done in the sanctuary, among other things, improving our air quality, reducing the humidity, and pretty soon we're going to be putting that extra door in, so the place is not available for us to have services right now. So once again, thank you for joining us on this Shabbat morning. On page 70, we begin with the singing of Hinema Tov Umanayim.
Hinema Tov Umanayim, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hinema Tov Umanayim, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hinema Tov, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hinema Tov, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hinema Tov Umanayim, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad. Hinema Tov Umanayim, Shevet Ahim Gam Yahad.
May the one whose spirit is with us in every righteous deed be with all who work for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, who give bread to the hungry and clothe the naked and take the friendless into their homes. May the work of their hands endure, and may the seed they sow bring abundant harvest. On page 74, with the singing of Matovu.
Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkelotecha Yisrael, Va'ani berach chasdechom, Avo v'techa, Eshtacha ve'echa kodshecho, Ve'yiratecha, Adonai ahavti, Me'on b'techa, Umekam mishkan kevodecha, Mishkan kevodecha, Matovu, Matovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkelotecha Yisrael, Mishkelotecha Yisrael.
On page 86, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah. O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel, may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Please turn now, for those of you who have your books, to page 108, and we continue with the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu el Adonai, Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamavorach, Leolam Va'ed.
Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom praise is due now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Marabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokhma asita, malaha aretz chinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al me'orei or she'asita, baruch hasela. Baruch or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu mehira le'oro, baruch atah Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion, on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah, focus our minds on your mitzvot, unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation with joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher ba'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Page 114, we continue with the singing of the Shema.
The Shema.
Yeah.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Page 116, Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'bechol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher nohim et tzavacha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bevetecha u'lechtecha v'aderet ובשחרך וקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
From Egypt you redeemed us, freeing us from bondage. For that your beloved sang praise, exalting you. Your dear ones offered hymns, songs, praise, blessing, and thanksgiving to you as sovereign, the living and enduring God, high and exalted, great and awesome. God ever humbles the proud, raises the lowly, frees the imprisoned, redeems the afflicted, helps the oppressed, answering our people when we cry out. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. In great joy, Moses, Miriam, and Israel responded with song to you, all of them proclaiming on page 122, Mi Chamocha.
Mi kamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei felech, nora tehilot osei felech. Shira chadasha shebechu ge'ulim, לשמך אספות הים. יחד כולם הודו והמלכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופתחנו מך, יהודה וישראל. גואלנו, אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
We're going to continue on page 124 with the tefillah. Normally, I would say, please rise. Under these circumstances, those of you who are able to do so, please do so. 124, the tefillah.
Adonai, sefatai tiftachu b'yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Ve'hanoro, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Hasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'mevii Gula Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo Ve'ahava. Melech Ozer, U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atagi bole lamadonai mechayeha kolata rav leoshia Mashiach harok morid hagashem mechacher chayim bechesed mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim somek nofilim verofei cholim umatir asurim umekayem emunato l'shenei ahafar michamocha ba'agevurot umidom elach melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanata l'hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hakol.
On page 130, we continue with the Kedusha.
Nekadesh et shemcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdishim Oto b'shmei marom Kakatuv al yad neviyecha B'karazei el zevei hamar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevot, Melok HaResh, Kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir Shemecha B'chol ha'aretz. Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu V'Hu Yashmi'enu Berachamav Le'nei Kol Chai Ani Adonai Elohechem Yimloch Adonai Leolam Elohai Ktzion Ledor Vador Hallelujah Ledor Vador Nagid Godlecha Netzach Netzachim Kedushacha Nagdish B'Shevchacha Eloheinu Mipinu lo yamosh le'olam ha'ed. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
Please be seated. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a sign for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed. On page 134, Hadshenu.
Eloheinu v'Elahei Avotenu v'Imotenu Ritzevenu Chatenu Kadshenu b'mitzvotecha V'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha Sabenu mituvecha V'samkeinu b'shuatecha V'taher lebeinu le'avdecha be'emet V'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu Be'avov ratzon Shabbat kodshecha Ve'anuchu va'Yisrael מקדש שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Find favor, Adonai, our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your Spirit upon us. Let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our trust and our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. A prayer for peace. Sim shalom tova uvracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Grant peace, goodness, and blessing, grace, kindness, and mercy to us and to all your people Israel. Bless us, our Creator, all of us together, through the light of your presence. Truly, through the light of your presence, Adonai, our God, you gave us a Torah of life, the love of kindness, justice, and blessing, mercy, life, and peace. May you see fit to bless your people Israel at all times, at every hour, with your peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. A few moments of private silent prayer.
Say shalom bimromav, Ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imenu. Amen.
Prayers for healing are taking on a different meaning and intensity at these difficult times. Thousands of people are dying every day of the coronavirus in this country alone. Hundreds of thousands have passed away. We pray for those who are seriously ill. May they have a good and easy recovery. We pray for those who are trying to take care of them. May they be protected from this dread disease. We mention members of our congregation who aren't doing well at this time. We mention those who are on the road to recovery. But I want to mention in particular those who are critically ill, and I need to say a special prayer for B. Einstein and for Ralph Einstein and for Norman Gross. May they suffer as little as possible. We hope and pray for perfect healing. We hope and pray that their loved ones will be strong through the challenges they are facing. Mishaberach avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak ve'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel ve'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us all say Amen as we sing the Misha Barak on page 253 together.
Misha Barak Avoteinu Mekor Habracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imoteinu Mekor Habracha Leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And on behalf of those who are now on the road to recovery and have passed through the dangers of surgeries and illnesses, we offer this prayer of thanksgiving. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has bestowed every goodness upon us. And may the one who has bestowed goodness upon us continue to bestow every goodness upon us forever. And may every day be a better day in the way we feel and in the way we are able to act. I would like to make a couple of comments about something that is of contemporary relevance but fits in well with this week's Torah reading. We are unable to have a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll here, and to have the formal reading, but we can still talk about it, study, and learn from it. At the end of last week's reading and spilling over to this week's reading, we deal with the interpretation of dreams. And Joseph is the one, of course, who does the interpreting. Then in this week's reading, I'm going to talk about the second part first. There is a severe famine in the land of Canaan, and Jacob has to tell those of his sons who are still with him, you don't have a choice. You have to go down into Egypt to try to get food. The contemporary relevance of that today is that so many people in this country, in this city, are without food. Yes, there are those who are prospering as they have never prospered before. We know that. We also know that there are people who are suffering as they have never suffered before. I had to be in downtown Sarasota a couple of days ago waiting for a place to open, and there were people sleeping on the street. I am sure those people are scavenging for any bit of food they can possibly get, and it makes us think of Jacob and his sons and our people, the Jewish people throughout history, that no matter how well at certain times we have prospered, and there's no doubt about that, there were times when people literally did not know where their next meal was coming from. In Jacob's case, it seems, because he says, take gifts to that man, the ruler of Egypt, Joseph, he doesn't know it's Joseph, that there was money, but there wasn't food. We need to be conscious of that. We are in dreadful times, and the distribution of food, the distribution of wealth and happiness in this country and in the world needs to be leveled off. Now, I am going to bring up next, based on current events, but motivated by something in the interpretation of dreams, that I hope I can shed some light on. There's been a bit of a controversy over the past few days as to whether Jill Biden should use the title doctor. This was exacerbated by Joseph Epstein, a well-known essayist and short story writer. Full disclosure, I have loved his short stories. I can identify with so many of them. So many of them are centered around middle-aged men in Chicago, and I know many of the areas that he is talking about. I serve 2 congregations in Illinois, and can understand a lot of the feelings, the emotions, the frustrations of academics, of professionals in their personal lives, and in the context of Chicago. I will read everything in the future of his with a different light. But I'm going to try to step back a bit and get back from any political or anti-feminist or anti-anything perspective, and I'm going to talk about the English language as it is spoken in the United States. If I have a stomach ailment, in this country, I may say, I am going to see the doctor. If I were speaking in Hebrew, I wouldn't say doctor, I would say rofeh. Now, doctor is used in modern Hebrew as an academic title, and your rofeh, literally actually healer, would also be a doctor of medicine. If we're speaking in French, le médecin, in German, der Arzt. In other words, I am going to see my physician, I am going to see my healer who does have a doctoral degree, and so do many other people. And there are different levels of doctoral degrees, as there are different levels of everybody else. I think we have limited ourselves in American English to having doctor and physician synonymous in the minds of a lot of people, especially those whose only contact or awareness of anyone with a doctoral degree would be a physician. And I guess my point here is not just in defense of this one or that one, but an argument in favor of expanding our horizons and our understanding of language. I'm trying to depoliticize it. I'm not excusing, I'm trying to explain how people come up with misunderstandings. You can be a doctor who doesn't write prescriptions. And I would hope that as part of our general education, the kind of education everybody should have, I'm very critical of our high school and college curriculum programs because I think there are certain things that are vital. It's more important to learn how a car operates or how to do certain basic repairs. Why not make that part of your general curriculum? But it's also important to make distinctions. There are several levels of healthcare professionals. They use that expression with the ads when you take medicine, speak to your healthcare professionals. Do we know when we're in the hospital and we're as groggy as can be, whether the person who comes into the room is a physician, a physician's assistant, a nurse, or maybe the person who's cleaning the room? And if we want to bring in sexist language, we would think less likely that the female who's coming in would be a physician and more likely that that person will be cleaning the room. I'm just giving natural experience, what I've had, what I've seen, what has been right and what has been wrong. I think we need to expand our education and teach our children. There are differences between, for example, optometrists and ophthalmologists, between those doctors like Jill Biden who can't write prescriptions and doctors who are MDs who can. I also think we need to expand our understanding, and this is getting into another hot topic, as to what certain titles mean and who gets those titles. So in one of our classes in the past few weeks or something, somebody asked the question about who, in terms of medical doctors, who gets to call himself or herself that name. And I mentioned, based on television shows, but in the Wild West, anybody who could carve a bullet out of somebody and then sew him back up would be called Doc. Doc Adams in Gunsmoke, if you want a footnote. Did he ever go to medical school? I think at one point he said he didn't. I'm remembering television shows from 50 years ago. Similarly, rabbi. People try to expand the term, and it's not just somebody who knows how to lead a service. It is in normal American usage today somebody who is the graduate of a rabbinical seminary. Unfortunately, as with other professions, we have our challenges. We are, and I'm glad, because of separation of church and state, not licensed by the state. So nobody can say who is and who isn't. But we have a lot of people out there who call themselves rabbis because they paid a certain amount of money to some online program. We have to be able to make the distinction, not to be nasty about it, but to be aware. And I would respect that Jill Biden, and not because she's Jill Biden and not because of any political affiliation. Sebastian Gorka, who was one of Trump's advisors, called himself doctor, and he wasn't an MD. And again, this is not meant for one party or the other. I'd say it no matter what. We need to be aware, and we need to give honor where honor is due. We need to respect our people. And we need to do something else. And here I'm picking up from our discussion last night. Bob Rosenbluth was one of our speakers, and Linda was the other. And Bob was reminiscing about the traditional Jewish world in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where he grew up. No, the big question that everybody asked, did you know the Bidens? And he said no, because the Irish Catholics lived here and the Jews lived there, and there was a huge moat in between. He didn't use that expression. But there was a time, and in certain parts of the Jewish world, there is a time where everyone has a thorough Jewish education. And as Bob put it, the shoemaker or the tailor on Shabbat would put on his good clothes and go to the synagogue and maybe read from the Torah. It didn't mean that just because your profession was one thing and your Jewish knowledge was another. And I'll expand that beyond our Jewish knowledge, our general knowledge. So, in times of famine, not just physical famine, but spiritual and educational famine as well. Though the Torah tells us, "Ein kemach, ein Torah," if you don't have food, you're not going to be able to have Torah, and especially if you are racked with hunger and you can't concentrate, how can you do a good job at school? That's my sermon in favor of having a good breakfast before you go to school in the morning. And as someone who battled with certain of my children who refused to eat breakfast, and I don't say I won the battle, but with others, they've been very accommodating, and I think it's paid off. So let's try to take care of ourselves. Let's try to feed ourselves and others. Let's try to educate ourselves, Jewishly and otherwise, to make the world a better place. I hope I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I said last night. I hope in the near future, whatever that means, we will be back in our sanctuary. And I said, when we are back in our sanctuary, we'll have the soft opening and the hard opening. Well, it'll take time. There'll be a process. But when we're all back there and celebrating and filling the place, we may still need to wear our masks, but nonetheless, I want to have a special ceremony. I'll say it in Hebrew, Chanukat HaBayit, the dedication, Hanukkah, dedication of the building, of the house, of the synagogue, as it was used in ancient Israel, Hanukkah for the dedication of the temple. And I am working up some special prayers and other things to say, starting with the Psalms that refer to Hanukkah, and maybe putting together a little pamphlet to have a special celebration. May God direct all of us to get ourselves vaccinated when it's available, to continue to wear our masks and wash our hands, and may that day be sooner rather than later. We are going to continue our service now. Please turn to page 282. And before we continue with Aleinu, let me just say thank you for tolerating our technical glitches. I was thinking, I don't know how to do this, so I don't promise that we will, but maybe we could get to the point of easy that we have the lights on in the ark behind me, which isn't really behind me, but if we really have the right technology, I'm $5-10 million studio, I'm fundraising for that, but the ark would open up at a certain point and close at a certain point. Kai brought in a picture earlier, I hope you don't mind my mentioning it, of the choir from several years ago, and we thought, if we put that picture up, people will think all those choir members have joined us this morning, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So let us celebrate Shabbat the best way we can. Page 282, those of you who are able, please rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyeh haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu k'chol hamonam, va'anaknu korim, Umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai Echad, Ushimo Echad.
A prayer before the Kaddish. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We remember and think of all those who have died as a result of the coronavirus, those that we knew personally, and in my case there are several, and those whose names we don't know at all. We mention also the members of the congregational family whose yahrzeits occur at this time: Dr. Alan Barson, Margaret Brooks, Hannah Kasdan, Marilyn Cole, Ruth Friedman, William Pannier, Ra Reritz, Michael Sabin, Robert Walder, Max Wiener. And for those of you who have additional names, just say them out loud, and may their memories stay alive in our hearts and our thoughts and our deeds. We turn to the Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrah cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye chon of yomei chon, v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'gala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Ulamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shmei tekucha richu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. May the source of peace grant peace unto those who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. I'm going to call on Alan Goldfarb, our Vice President, if he has a few comments and announcements. But before I do, let me remind everybody that my Tuesday morning class will not meet this week on the 22nd, but will pick up on the 29th. Alan, some greetings, and you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Thank you, rabbis.
Good, good.
All right. I first want to thank you, Rabbi, and I wish to thank Kai again for her beautiful accompaniment. And we have some events coming up this coming week, and I'd like to give you the highlights of some of them. On Monday, December 21st, BIW will have their movie at 1 p.m. On Tuesday, December 22nd, we will have our Board of Trustees meeting again at 2 p.m. Wednesday, December 23rd, the singles group is having an outdoor lunch. And on Wednesday, the 23rd, the community presentation with Bob Gary will be held at 7 p.m. On Friday, the 25th, the office will be closed, but we will have services in the evening. And on Saturday, we will have our Shabbat services again at 10 a.m. With Torah study. I'd like to mention that in order to get some more information on all the events that are going on at our temple, I refer you to our weekly e-blast, and I also refer you to our bulletin. I want to wish everybody a very healthy and a very happy New Year. And I also would like to mention that we will be together next week, and we look forward to seeing everybody. Again, good Shabbos, have a good weekend. Make sure you wear your mask and that social distancing. Those are two important elements so we can maintain our safety and the safety of others. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And I also want to thank, one more time, I want to thank Kai for all her patience as we struggled with technology earlier this morning. And I want to give a special word of thanks to Corin and to Spencer, who've been trying to fiddle with the multitudes of computers and devices we're working with here. We're complete, at least I'm a complete amateur at this, but it's amazing how necessity forces you to learn new skills. May the world that we have in front of us be a better world despite the losses because of the new skills that we have mastered. We're going to conclude this service with the singing of Adon Olam on page 321, and I hope all of you will be able to join in the singing.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et na'asa v'ketza kol azai melech shimo nikra ve'achareh yiklot hakol levado yimlok nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hobeh והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני. להמשילה, להגבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה בידו, אף תגרופי, בידי שן ויהירה, ואמרוכי גבייתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא.
May God bless us and protect us with health and safety. Good Shabbos, Shabbat
Good
Shalom.
Sabbath, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.